So welcome everybody. Thanks for everybody attending this edition of the Southern Fried DNN Meetup. We're coming live to you from Charlotte, North Carolina at the Microsoft campus. So thanks for all the online attendees as well as in the room. We've got a pretty good showing here in the room tonight. I think there's 9 of us here. So it's a pretty good showing for us. Starting to grow back a little bit and excited about that. And I think some more people are going to be joining online, and I know a few people that cannot join us live, but will be anxiously awaiting the replay of this. So excited about the content tonight. And we've got some new faces here, so excited to see that. We are waiting for a name there, so we'll see who that mystery person is coming in here pretty soon. So first of all, I want to thank our sponsors for the group, and I'll list those on the screen there real quick so everybody can get a good look at them. A few of these are supplying nice licenses for some really good software packages. JetBrains will be giving away something tonight. They're really special, as well as I don't think we have an Infragistics tonight, but I know a few lucky people have won those already in the room. And Tech Systems is not able to be here tonight, but we hope to have them back very soon to be sponsoring food. So if anybody came hungry, I apologize that we do not have food tonight. And we probably need to remove Particle there, don't we? Since that was a one-time thing. And Manage.com is the sponsor of, or hosts our website. So thank you very much to all of them. Please feel free to check out these sponsors and, utilize their services and or products, I guess. That's what I should say. Let's switch this back over here. Yeah, that's the Meetup page. So got a few announcements tonight, actually quite a few. And I want to start off just giving a little update on DNN Con. I know a lot of you are excited to be going to that pretty soon. It's coming up in April, the 1st and 2nd in Baltimore area. It's not right in Baltimore, but it's kind of in between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. area. It's not too far from Baltimore. It's easy distance, about 20 minutes both way, but it's in Columbia, I think is what it's, or Columbia, yeah. So very excited about that. Plans are coming together really well for that. We've got one special announcement tonight. If you have not heard, one of our very own is going to be presenting the keynote at DNN Con, Clint Patterson. So, nice round of applause for Clint. No pressure, but you better bring some funny. I mean, it's a little hick funny. That would be a little Southern hick funny. And I hear he's got a few other little special tricks up his sleeve potentially as well, but people will be really excited to see and hear about. So excited about that. So thanks for doing that, Clint. We also have, I believe, and anybody that's online, I think Will Stroh is online, but if he's still online, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But I think Joe Brinkman, who's also online, and Will Morganwick will be speaking from DNN Core. So excited to hear from them again. We've got quite a few sponsors lined up there, but if you are interested in sponsoring the event, please send an email. Actually, you can go to the website at dnncon.com, and there's information there on how to contact for sponsorship. There's quite a few packages ranging from lower level to a nice high level, and there are benefits that come along with each of those. So if any of you are interested in sponsoring, please do go and check that out. Attendance. Please help us get the word out about the event. This, I believe, is the first one up in that area. So it is kind of, even though DNN Con has been happening a while, that is new to that area. And there's not a huge user group or anything like that in the area. This is just a few people. I think Joe Craig joined us online here as well. So Joe Craig is heading that up, and Don Bishop as well. With many of you probably know Don from Affinigent. And they're kind of running the show up there. So it's not a big group of people really putting it together, but we want to do everything we can to help them get the word out and attract visitors to it. So if you are on social media, Follow DNN Con on Twitter. And also there's a Facebook page. We're very active at this point in getting the word out in both of those channels. So if you want the latest and greatest information as far as that conference go, please do follow us there, and be sure to keep you informed, and please do engage and retweet or share on Facebook. Also, I wanted to give a quick update on DNN Connect, which is another wonderful DNN event that's being put on by a different group of people way across the pond. And in the UK, actually in the Europe, it's going to be in Spain this year, in Girona. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly. It's probably Girona or something like that, but it's in Spain. So beautiful, beautiful area. As you know, everything's close by in Europe, so if you get a chance to go there, there's a lot close by, including Barcelona, which I hear is absolutely stunning. So please do check them out at dnn-connect.org, and I believe it works without the dash as well. I know they still have a call out for speakers, and I probably should have mentioned that with DNN Con too. Please, if you're interested in speaking at that event, we are still accepting speaker submissions there. So same thing's true for DNN Connect. They've got a neat little thing on their website where you can kind of see what people are interested in hearing from, and there's a voting system there to where you can kind of see, okay, a lot of people are interested in this or that. So go and check that out on their website, and on the event details through there. I don't have the exact link for that, but it's pretty neat. I thought that was very helpful. You can submit based off of that or not, and you can see who has already submitted and what they've submitted. So that's really good to get exposure. You know, that way you don't have some overlap of speaking subject matter and so forth. As you know, that event probably is a little more laid back in the European culture, so there will be some drinking, I hear, over there as well. So, and I might mention they have sponsorship possibilities as well, one of which, the lowest entry level, is a CAG sponsor. So great way to get your name out there and into the community. So be sure to connect with them at dnnconnect.org or dnn-connect.org. Next up, I wanted to give a brief update about the DNN 8 module challenge. We got a winner. Oh, the winner. That's great. DNN module contest winner. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. I don't have a clue who that might be, but they little delay in that as far as getting the winner announced. And Joe Brinkman might be able to come online for just a second and tell us when to expect the voting to start. I'm not sure if that already started or not, but I know it's supposed to be right around now, getting that started. But Joe, if you are on, feel free to chime in and give us a little clarity on that.
Yeah, so voting should be starting tomorrow. We're still trying to get all of the information uploaded in there, and today I was just trying to get the documentation center out. So if you haven't seen that yet, documentation center is now live, and you can get to that from the community area on the website. But tomorrow we should have voting up and available for the module contest. There you go.
Wonderful segue. Next announcement is that the DNN Documentation Center has been officially launched. You can get to that at dnnsoftware.com/docs. And I hear that this is going to be quite the location to go and get all information that you need on DNN, whether you're a developer, admin, or designer. So please do go and check that out. I know they are looking for feedback as well on that. So as with any new thing, there's always room for improvement. So please feel free to share your information. Either let's just bombard Joe Brinkman's inbox there.
Post all feedback up to the issues area in GitHub. There is an official GitHub project for the documentation center. So. Oh,
so GitHub and not Jira?
Yeah, seriously, or you're?
Yeah, GitHub, not Jira.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So is this maintained by Dnn for like Like, could I go in there and update an article because it's maintained on GitHub?
Yeah, good question. So a question in the room, Joe, from Clint Patterson, wondering if this is maintained solely by DNN Core or if there is a way for outside submissions to come in to that from the community.
Yeah, so so all of the documentation is in GitHub. So you can do pull requests against it. You can submit issues against it. So all of that is available. And I posted the issues link there in the GoToMeeting chat window. But you can go to github.com/dnnsoftware/docs. There you go. And so issues are there, codes there. Do a pull request, submit issues. We'll look at all of that. Obviously, it'll go through an internal review process through our tech writer to get voice and grammar and all that stuff down, and we'll do an internal tech review as well. But yeah, we'll take pull requests for sure.
That is wonderful. Glad to see that on GitHub. If you need to know more about GitHub, feel free to reach out to myself or any of the other people that you see active on the GitHub at DNN Corp on the DNN platform. A lot of them out there that are now wonderfully familiar with GitHub. So if you, it's fairly simple probably on doing pull requests for something like this. So I'll be glad to help anybody out if you need that.
Well, and David, if you just go into like the admin area or just click into the admin folder there. And open one of those RST files. So you can directly edit in here, and it'll automatically create a pull request for you. So you don't have to, like, you can do all of your editing inside of GitHub as long as you understand the restructured text format. And there you go. And it'll create the pull request and then submit the pull request back up. So it really works very nice, especially for simple edits and stuff.
Yeah, for simple edits like this, basically you fill this out, do your edits in here, and it does adhere to the markdown language, I believe. And
yeah, that's a restructured text markdown. So it's a special kind of markdown, but yeah, it's markdown.
Okay, excellent. And basically, when you do this and you click save, it will then prompt you for a pull request that you can create and send back up. You can also do bulk edits as well, and I'll be glad to show anybody how to do that kind of thing in your local repository and send one pull request for all the edits.
I mean, that thing could be awesome for like onboarding if the community.
Absolutely, yeah. So please help get the word out about that. That's great. Thanks, Joe, for talking a little bit about that, and I'll put you on the spot there.
Just for the video, on the document center to one of the sections so we can see what it looks like.
Sure. Where did I put that? Okay.
So like if you go to a specific article,
so how would you edit that specific article?
Yes, so my guess is, Joe, I don't know if you want to bring a little bit of clarity, but the question in the room is, so we go to this article and we find, oh, there needs to be some change to that. Does the structure of this online follow the structure that you see in GitHub pretty obviously, or is it something different?
Yeah, so you'll see there's a dev folder in GitHub and a how-to and creating modules. So you should be able to follow those pretty much all the way down. So right, docs, dev, and then there's how-to, and then creating modules. Right. So we can enable, if people want the direct link, it is possible for us to enable that from within the documentation system. We just need to figure out where I want to have that show up in the document itself. But yeah, we can easily enable the edit on GitHub link. It's a natively supported in the documentation system. So.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. I'm sure you'll get a lot of feedback over the next little while, but again, the way you provide key feedback through here is to go to the GitHub branch of the docs there and submit an issue here. So let's let it roll. Next up on announcements, and I know we got a lot here, but and I'll run through this one really quick. I was planning on personally developing a module for the DNN module challenge, but I did not get to do that. It got delayed for various reasons and ended up kind of canning it. But what the ultimate goal of that module was going to be is to kind of turn that over to the Southern Fried DNN group here and let it be a group project to be maintained moving forward. So I say all that to say I'm still at the fairly early stages. I've got most of the scaffolding done, but the module is actually a Meetup module. So it's for helping user groups, be them DNN or otherwise, that are running their sites on DNN platform or Devote. They would be able to utilize this module to manage their meetups. What that really means, without getting into too much detail, is it's going to interface through the API of meetup.com, and that way you've got a single point of publishing most of your stuff, and eventually it would be nice to tie it into Facebook and Twitter and all that. But if anybody's interested in joining me in developing that module, we'll be doing it in a DNN SPA fashion. So if you have, JavaScript experience, Angular in particular is what we're going to use for the front end kind of stuff, web API stuff, typical DNN web services, framework experience, let me know. Be glad to get you tapped in. We'll put that on GitHub and let that be a community project.
One thing is that in the chat one that your module says they miss you. And then the other thing was on the meetup, I don't know if you wanted to call out that.
I do, yeah. That is next on the list.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So somebody actually misses me? Oh,
your orphan module misses you.
That's really great. Oh, thank you. It's good to be loved. I think that's what that is. Yes. I wanted to point out too that the Meetup site is not a free site, and through the generous donations of our members or anybody else that wants to help along, that's a great way to kind of keep that floating so that no one person or group has to carry that burden. So we did get our first wonderful donation today. Thank you, Mr. Clint, for doing that. And so if anybody else would like to help contribute to that, I'll point out where that can be done. I think it's right down here, isn't it, Clint? Actually, it's on the main thing. So let's see, home, let's go home.
You may not be able to.
I think it's on the left-hand side here, chip in. So if you go to meetup.com/southern-fried-DNN, that's our meetup place. If you have not already joined the group there, please do join the group. That's free, no cost or anything. But this is kind of our gold spot for communicating meetup information. We do try to post on Facebook page, as well on Twitter, as well as in their email blast. But this is really the go-to for the definitive information on what's going on. So the cost of this is, great question. So cost of this is right at $21 and some odd cents a month. A little pricey, but very good. I think it's helped us get the word out a little bit more with the group too. And I know a lot of people are tapping into the playback, of the events more so than they used to be. So I think we're going to try to do a better job too of getting these recordings posted quicker for everybody too, because we lagged back a little bit on the last two meetups. So I do apologize for that, but I think we've got our act together now. Lastly, but not least, I wanted to go ahead and announce the speakers for the next 2 months that are coming up. In March, we do have a question for you too, Michael, about the date in March, possibly switching that. But in March, there will be Tony Carter from Carter Solutions that will be presenting a very cool presentation on, I'm going to try to spit all this out. There's a lot to it, but they're going to use Xamarin, which is a mobile development platform, tied in with the web services framework, and in particular using JWT or JSON Web Tokens that is new in DNN 8 for authentication. So you're going to see a full end-to-end mobile app accessing how to access DNN for authentication and so forth, and utilize the web services framework. So it should be a very interesting one for people, that are interested in mobile app development and in particularly integrating that with DNN. So we're real excited about that. In April, we do have confirmation from Mr. Nick Caliani, who is one of the 4 original co-founders of .NET Nuke. He will be presenting, and if we are lucky, he will be here in person. That'll be April after the DNN Con, and Nick's always got some kind of edge case up his sleeve, so we should expect him to just bring it. So I think everybody was, he was kind of on the bleeding edge down in DNN Con in West Palm. I don't know if that was the last DNN Con or the one before that, but I think he was presenting on Angular and Angular Fire, integrating that with DNN, and that was back when that stuff was really just kind of not known very well, and it was blowing everybody's mind. So we're real excited about seeing him come. I think that is it for announcements. Did I miss anything, any of you guys? Okay, great. Well, tonight we are thrilled to have a community member that is kind of been maybe not so much on everybody's radar for the last little while, but some of his work recently is really catching the attention of a lot developers out there. We have all known and trusted certain ways of developing modules in DNN for quite some time, and through contributions of other community members such as Chris Hammond, who has maintained the templates for Visual Studio and developing, really getting a good start with DNN development and getting all that scaffolded out. But in the community, there have been a lot of different ways to develop modules that have not been so known. And tonight, Darrell Tunnell is joining us from the UK. And I promise, Darrell, we're going to get to you because I know it's really late there. I think we're after midnight for you. So we're excited to have you here. He's going to be presenting tonight on a completely different paradigm, really, for DNN development, and I think you're going to be pretty amazed. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Darrell. Darrell, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, hello everyone. It is 25 minutes past midnight, so it's way past my bedtime. Yeah, I'll crack on with the presentation. So first of all, I'm just going to share my screen, if I can figure out how to do that. Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen yet? Yep. Okay.
Yes, we can, yes.
Good. Okay. So the project I'm going to introduce is called Dnn Packager. So Dnn Packager it's an open source project, so it's on GitHub, naturally, where all the open source projects are, and it also is a Nuget package. And I'm going to show you how we can use this Nuget package in a second. But the purpose of Dnn Packager, its goal, is to get DNN developers up and running as sort of pain-free as possible, sort of as friction-free, so that they're not bumping into build issues and all sorts of problems that you can come across when you're first trying to get into .NET Nuke development. So that's really the goal. So it's for streamlining your development workflow, really. So I'm going to show you quickly how we can get up and running with a completely brand new module by using Dnn Packager. So first of all, I'm going to open up Visual Studio, and I'm going to create a brand new project, and I'm going to create a Dnn Packager will actually work with different types of projects, so you could just choose a C# library project, but the web project's a nice one to work with because you get the familiar menu options when you're in a web project for adding things like JavaScript files and things that you need. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call this module beta, and I'm going to create that project. And I'm going to take a sip of my beer. Okay. So nothing out of the ordinary here. A brand new empty project. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the Nuget package for Dnn Packager. So I'm going to manage Nuget packages. So you can do this in various ways. You can use this fancy console window down here to install Nuget packages. But I like the UI, so I'm going to do it through the UI. So I'm going to add the Dnn Packager Nuget package to my project. Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is it pops up this README, but you don't need this tonight because you've got me to explain everything for you. So I won't bore you with the README. So if we just look at the project now, it's added a few files to the project. So it's added a manifest, and the manifest has been filled out with sort of project values, and it's added some release notes and a license file. And straight away, if I build this project, and then I look in the output directory, you can see it's producing a zip file straight away, and this is the actual .NET Nuke install zip for the module. So if I look inside that, you can see that it's got the standard contents that an install zip would have. So let's make this into a module now. So I'm going to add the Nuget package for .NET Nuke. So if I'm developing a .NET Nuke 7 module, which I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to add the .NET Nuke 7 Nuget package. And all that's going to do is it's going to bring in the .NET Nuke assembly and add it as a project reference. And now I'm going to create my user control for my module.
So Darrell, just to inject here real quick, are you saying that you can basically build a module for any DNN version at this point as long as there's a NuGet package for it?
Yes, yes. So DnnPackager isn't tied to any specific .NET Nuke version. All it handles is, once you add it to the project, it just makes sure that that project builds to an install zip. You can target DNN 5, DNN 6, DNN 7, DNN 8. It's up to you to add the correct references to your project to then build the correct components within that project. But ultimately, when you build it, DnnPackager is going to produce an install zip. And really, the only thing that you have to be careful of is obviously what version of the .NET Nuke assemblies that you reference and the format of your manifest file. So obviously, some elements in the manifest are only supported for particular .NET Nuke versions. But yeah, there's no restraint in DnnPackager It's just going to produce the install zip for you. So at this point, I can add a new user control. So this is going to be my module control. So, oops, I'm going to add that. And I'm going to make a very basic DNN7 module by making this inherit from portal module base. Okay. And the last step I need to take is, in my manifest, I obviously need to add that control to the manifest.
We are recording this, by the way, for those of you that are asking about that. We did have one question from the Sean Walker, who is also online. You probably recognize that name there. So that's the kind of interest you're getting there, Darrell. So no pressure. But Sean Bobble wants to know. Let's see. Yeah. So. Right. So I'm sorry, I had to read the question a couple times to understand what it was saying. So the question is, if you needed to reference other DNN DLLs, that there is a way we know to do that. Could you explain that just a little bit?
Yeah. So the way I like to reference DLLs, I always prefer Nuget packages. So you can come to a project and you can obviously just add a reference the way you normally do and find the assembly somewhere. If you keep them on your local hard drive somewhere, add them that way. But I prefer to use Nuget packages, and .NET Nuke, they are producing Nuget packages now as part of their builds. So if you search on Nuget for .NET Nuke packages, there's a variety of different .NET Nuke packages that will include different references based on what you're trying to develop. So usually I would push people towards trying to find an appropriate Nuget package. So if they're doing some client development or some web API development, try out adding the relevant Nuget package, and you'll find that that will often pull in the references that you need. So does that answer the question? I'm going to assume it does, unless you write some more comments.
Yeah, I think it does. One thing that might help people too, because I think probably a lot of people are used to Chris Hammond's templates, which this is a very different methodology, and I don't want to steal your thunder or anything like that, but the difference between this is you're not developing in line within a DNN instance. You are developing in your own project folder, and he's going to show you in a little bit how all of that connects together and works. But the reason we're doing the Nuget packages is because we can make those references without being dependent on an instance of DNN. So
yeah, and there's another other benefits to the Nuget packages as well. So if you're a team and you use tools like TeamCity to do your builds, or you have some other continuous integration system that does your builds, there's a feature called Nuget Restore, and what it means is that you don't have to add these Nuget packages to source control, and they can actually just be restored. So for example, if we put this code on GitHub, I don't have to upload those Nuget packages for the Nuget assemblies or anything like that. But when someone opens up the solution, Nuget will just automatically restore them. And it just makes it easier as well for updating. So if I look at my Nuget packages, when .NET Nuke release a bug fix, it will show on the Updates tab, and I can click a button and update my dependencies across all of my projects in my solution just at a single button click, and that it's a much easier workflow, I think, than manually trying to manage adding reference to particular files across different projects. So okay, I'll continue onwards. So at this point, I've created a new project, I've added Dnn Packager, I've updated my manifest, and I've just created a simple module here. So now I want to actually install this. So on my local IIS, I've already got a DNN 7 installed. And I'm now going to install the module to that DNN 7 instance. So the way I do that is I open up the Package Manager console, which is, if you don't see it by default, you can click on the Tools menu in Visual Studio, and under Nuget Package Manager, there is a Package Manager console, and you can open up that window. So from here, I'm going to type install module DNN 7, and I've got my module beta, my module project selected, so that's the module that is going to be installed. So I'm just going to hit that. So what this is doing now, it's building this project. It has installed the installation zip to my DNN 7 website. So if I browse to my DNN 7 website now, and I go to the host extensions page, and I'm just going to refresh that. Come on, DNN 7.
You let it go to sleep. Man, it got sleepy. It's late there.
Oh, it's logged me out. That's how long I haven't used it in a while. It's logged me out.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so here's my module beta. So my module beta has been installed, and I'm just going to add that to a test page now. So
wait, Darrell, you mean it already installed, but you didn't have to install it? Wait, what do you mean?
Yeah, so yeah, so I can install this module anytime. So if I just come to this window and hit up, that will bring up the last command, and I can just hit enter, and there we go, it's installed. So it's just built the zip file and installed it. So now what I'm going to do is, I want to see this module, and I potentially want to do some debugging. So I'm going to add it to this test page. So let's add module beta.
So there's a quick question here in the room. I want to answer it while you're working through that wonderful error. There was a typo in your manifest, by the way. That's why that's doing that.
Oh yeah, spelling mistake.
Left the D out of modules. I meant to mention that before you did that. But so the question in the room was, if this module had database in it, had a SQL data provider basically already put into it, it would behave exactly the way any module. So you build this thing out, million controls, whatever it is, database scripts and everything. That install command installs it into your local DNS. It's based off of the website name in your local IIS. Okay, so you can imagine already the power of the workflow is way faster. Yeah. Way faster. Okay, I'll turn it back over to you. Sorry, Dale.
That's okay. Right. Okay, so I wasn't expecting this exception, I'll be honest. But it looks like
Hey, this is a demo. It always happens. It happens to all of us.
Oh God, I've been through this like twice in advance, and
Yeah. So that issue is
yeah.
because you've got a web config in your directory there with your project, which is one of the problems you get with Nuget sometimes, is that it wants to drop web configs indiscriminately.
That'll be it. Thank you.
Good call. So we got a need for now a command line to check grammar, and we need a command line to
Okay, so I've just deleted the web config, and I've just reinstalled the module, and I'm going to hopefully. No. Let's see if it's. Sorry about this, guys.
No worries. We're tracking. It's good.
Oh, you've got something in your bug. It said something about desktop modules, and it was misspelled.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I think I know what this is.
Yeah, it's in your manifest file.
It's correct though, I think. I think what it is it's caching.
Your control source there.
Yeah, under control source, yeah, your modules, desktop modules is misspelled.
I looked at that about 5 times. So actually, this brings me on to a good point, which if we get any time, I'll show you at the end. That editing this manifest is currently the weakest point in the flow for me. And even when I'm trying not to make mistakes, like in the demo, I always will, like this one. So if I get time at the end, I'll show a side project I'm working on, which is so that when you double-click this file in Visual Studio, you actually get a graphical editor of the DNN manifest. So it's a UI basically sitting on top of the manifest file. And I'm hoping that by using that, it will validate and help prevent a lot of these errors. But anyway, moving on. So I'll just reinstall this module. Finally, we have a working module. And what I can do now, obviously, is if I'm developing this module, I'll add all sorts of fancy Meetup API calls.
Is that a hint that you're going to join us on the creation? Yeah.
So the flow for me now is I'll make some changes. I'll add some code, and then I'll come down to this window. I'll hit up, and I'll hit enter, and it will reinstall my module, and then I'll refresh the page, and then I'll see the changes. If I want to debug, actually, let me go through this in order because I've got a strict order I was going to go through this in. Okay. So the next thing is I can install a debug build, or I can install a release build. So I can add onto here the build configuration. So if I do an install module DNN7 release, that will now do a release build of the same module, and it will just install the release build. If I do debug, obviously it will install a debug build of the module. If I don't specify anything, then it will just take whatever your active build configuration is up here. So at the moment it's been installing debug builds. The other thing about this is when you build the project, it's designed to work quite nicely with source control. So when you build the project, all the temporary zip malarkey that happens to actually, the temporary files that get created to produce the zip, that happens under the object, the obj directory in here, which by default, this directory is usually excluded from source control, so you don't get all these temporary files showing up in source control. And also, what I found earlier on when I was messing around with, manually adding targets files to projects and things, is that a lot of the time when you clean, the solution, it wouldn't delete everything. It'd leave stuff left behind. It would leave zips and things in certain locations. So Dnn Packager makes sure that it's a good sort of first-class citizen with the MSBuild process. So it produces stuff in the correct directory, and it cleans up. When you clean the solution, it cleans everything. It's all gone. So the next thing I'll quickly talk about is why you might want to have different build configurations. So this goes on to a few features now. A few features of Dnn Packager. So, for example, at the moment, when I install this module, if I look in the bin directory of my DNN site, it's installing the DLL, but it's not installing any debug symbols. And that's not a problem for debugging, but in fact, I haven't showed you debugging yet, have I? Let me show you debugging. So if I want to actually debug some code, I'll put a breakpoint on my page load, and I'll use this command. So install module DNN7 debug attach. If I hit enter, so that will now install the module, and it will also hook up your debugger to the running website instance.
Darrell, if this works, it's brilliant, buddy. Absolutely brilliant.
This works. Of course it'll work.
Yeah, we know that, right?
Okay, so it's debugging. So if I reload page, and there's my breakpoint. So you can debug, you can debug your code just by adding those couple of words onto the command. So debug attach, basically. And if you leave that, whilst you're making changes and writing code, if I stop that a second, whilst you're writing code, all I have to do is come back, hit enter, and I'm going to go into a debugging experience. So it's as close as it's not quite as nice as clicking the play button, but it's as close as I could get it, basically.
You built in release mode, by the way, so.
Okay. I do apologise for the time spent waiting for stuff to refresh and build, and there's my breakpoint. I don't think setting a page title actually does anything in .NET Nuke. No, I don't think so. But you know, it's just to demonstrate. It runs your code and you can debug your code.
So one question came from the online folks. Is it possible to create a toolbar that does the command for you?
Well,
And I'm sure it might be a separate what you're working on. So I don't want to. If you want to postpone that until you want to talk about what you're also working on beyond Packager, that would be fine.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll postpone that. I think you could, because all that's happening is this is making a call out to a command line executable. So this here is a command line. There is an executable. So if you go to your project and you look at the .NET Packager Nuget package that's been added, inside there is an executable. And if you call that executable with the right arguments, it will actually remotely hook up, you know, it will build this project, it will connect Visual Studio Debugger to the website instance. So basically all this is doing, this command here, is calling out to the exe and passing those arguments. So if you can make a button that can call an executable and pass some arguments, then you know it's possible. And I'm actually working on something which brings in more Visual Studio integration. And if we have time, I'll show you some of that at the end. Okay, I want to just get in show a few more advanced features of Dnn Packager. Before I do, David, how are we doing for time?
Oh, we're very, very good here. So you take your time and get through it. Be good.
Okay. All right. Okay. So some advanced features of Dnn Packager. And by the way, if anyone has any ideas, just go to the GitHub project and raise an issue, and we'll think about it.
we will post. By the way, we will post a link to your GitHub page for this in the show notes or on our recap for our website. So any of those type of resources and so forth, we'll be sure to share with everybody. But in short, it's github.com/Dazinator, DAZINATOR.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, so first feature is how do you include additional files in your install package? Because at the moment it's producing this install package. Here it is. But what if I want to just add another file? Well, any file you add. So if I add text file, add a text file. As long as the build action of that file in Visual Studio is set to content, then that will include it in the resources zip inside the install package. So if I look at the install package, I go inside to in the resources zip, there's my text file. And that's just because the build action is set to content. So by default, if you add JavaScript files, CSS files, Visual Studio will default to content, so you'll just find that those get included in the package automatically. But if you added a file and you didn't want to, you wanted to exclude it from the package, you just change this, set it to none or anything other than content, and it won't be included in the install package basically. So that's how you install additional files. You can include other. So that includes files in the resources zip in here, but you can include files also directly in the actual zip package itself by making changes to this file, this props file that's been added to your project. So, for example, if I want to include an additional assembly in the package, so the .NET Nuke assembly, for example, I can do that by, and there's an example in this file of including additional assemblies, by doing this. So any entries that you add here, when you then build, when the zip gets built, the module gets built, if you then go into the zip package, the install package, then those additional assemblies are included in the bin directory. The same for symbols. If you've got additional PDBs that you want to include, the same principle applies, and you'll find that they'll be put in the bin directory. If you want to include random files from somewhere on your hard disk, you can do that. There is an example here, and it looks something like this. So I can include, from within my project directory, my special file .special, and that will be put directly into the install zip. Now, I've never really had to use any of this apart from some. It's very rarely that I have to use these features, but when you need them, they are useful. So it's good to know that they're there, kind of thing. Okay, so if I close out of that. The next thing you can do is you can have build-specific versions of manifests. So the example is when I do a debug build of my module, I want the actual PDB file to be installed into my site's bin directory. But when I do a release build of my module, because I'm putting it on the DNN store, I don't want the PDB files to be installed. So the way to do that is you can create another manifest, and if you call it after a build configuration, so if I append the build, so the format is the manifest file name build configuration.dnn. So in here, got a little snippet here for the manifest. In my debug manifest, I am going to include another file, and it's going to be the PDB. Okay, so when I build in debug build now, and I look at the install, so the PDB's there, and looking inside the install, you can see it's chosen the manifest.debug DNN file rather than manifest DNN, because it's detected that there's a more specific version of the manifest available for the current build. So there's a precedence. It will pick, if there's a DNN file that's more specific for the current build, it will pick that one over the default one. And if I build in release mode, and I build this package, and I look at the zip, it's going to use the default manifest because there's no more specific manifest for a release build. So hopefully that makes sense. And because of that, now when I do if I come back down here and I install module to DNN7, the debug build, I won't bother attaching the debugger. That's installed the module, and if I look inside the bin directory of the website, I was hoping to find a PDB, but typically
Hey, it is a demo.
There we go.
Let me try that one more time.
Sean Bobble says it's very late there, so PDBs don't work after midnight. While you're doing that, I will point out that I posted in the chat there a link to your blog for getting started with Dnn Packager. So I know a lot of people will be interested in that. So if you take a look in the chat window, you can get that.
Brilliant. Yeah, it goes a lot more smoothly on my blog, actually.
This is really great. So you've built in some great features to maintain some real control from the developer without jumping through too many hoops. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm going to probably give up on this particular feature.
It's okay. We get the concept. I'm sure that'll be fixed in a future pull request, right?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll figure out what I've done wrong. But basically, that feature definitely works if only I can figure out how to use it properly. Okay. The next thing I wanted to talk about, so aside from build-specific versions of the manifest file, you can have versions of the manifest file that are for particular DNN versions. So, for example, many module developers, they need to support, they put their module in the store, they need to support, if it's being installed into DNN 6, they want to include a nice manifest that has an icon file. If it's DNN 5, then they need it to use the DNN 5 manifest that doesn't have support for that. So you can add, if you just add a manifest and you give it, so DNN so this is a .dnn7 manifest. So if I build this now, what it's going to do, it's going to build the install package, and it's going to include the default manifest and the DNN7 specific manifest. And the same sort of precedence applies. So in this case, there is no, the DNN7 manifest is always going to be selected because, unless I do a release build, because this is a debug, it's the debug version. It's for a debug build. So just to demonstrate that, if I call this .dnn7, and then I make a .debug version of DNN7. So if I build this now in debug mode, we'll end up with these two manifests, the debug version of the DNN7 one and just the ordinary manifest. Those two. It's a bit, I'm struggling to explain this concept, so it's probably best to look at the documentation on the GitHub site, because I have actually documented this feature in terms of the precedence of the manifest files. There's a rule in how it selects them. So it will always include, you have to include at least one manifest file, and it will always try and pick the most build-specific ones if they're available, and it will also include any that end in a number, .dnn7, .dnn8, so that you can have multiple manifests for each DNN version inside the same package.
Makes sense.
And I think lastly, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about, and that was TeamCity integration. So this is a new feature that I recently added. So if you don't use TeamCity to do your builds, then you should be. So I've got a module here. I've got a project in TeamCity, and it's just building. So if I go to my project, it's called Dnn test module. Now, when TeamCity builds a project that has Dnn Packager, automatically the zip file will show up on the Artifacts tab in TeamCity. So whenever there's a build, DnnPackager is clever enough to detect that it's running within the context of TeamCity, that build, and it can inform TeamCity to say, hey, look, I've produced this zip file. And so automatically TeamCity, whenever it's building your solution, you'll see your module zips in the artifacts for that build. And that can be quite useful, obviously, because you can do all sorts of things with them. And if you've got CI processes, you can set up deployment processes to push these zips out to different DNN installations, or all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I think that about wraps it up for DnnPackager. Sorry that some things didn't really go as smoothly as I wanted them to, but I guess that's sod's law, really.
That's just a normal thing. Thank you so much for presenting that. I think probably let's take a quick pause and get some questions, maybe either here in the room or online if anybody has it. And then I know you want to share just a little bit about what's next. So let's take some questions on this. Questions in the room or online? And by the way, if we missed any questions that you posted in the chat window, if you don't mind, just post those again right now. They'll keep us from having to scroll back too far. You got one? Yep.
When he was talking about building different manifest files for different versions, he went on to then talk about debug versions and release versions. And my follow-up thought was, what other instances would you want to create other kinds of manifest files? He then started to look at DNN versions, so 7 and 6 and 5 would be good examples. But outside of that, why would you, or what instances would you build other manifest files outside of those?
So the question in the room, I don't know if you heard any of that. Did you hear any of that?
No, I struggled. I couldn't hear.
Okay, so the question was basically in reference to the different manifest file capabilities. And the question is really, kind of why would you want to create other manifests and so forth? And I know there's probably a two-pronged answer to that. One that's DNN specific, which you probably understand the answer already, and taking the number at the end of manifest file and choosing that accordingly. But the other side of it, if you want to just give us a little bit of use case maybe for having to do that. I know you covered the PDB being included or not being included. Well, what are some other potential use cases for that?
Well, to be honest, the only reason I created that entire feature was because of that one thing with the PDB. But then I thought, you might find some novel uses for that. So, for example, a release build, you might want to include a license file, with the install. For a debug build, maybe you want to include some, I don't know, developer logo, or I don't know, some content that helps you, maybe some logging configuration or something, a logging configuration for your logger, or I don't know, something like that. Any kind of content that you might want to include differently based on the build configuration.
Yeah, there may even be some situations where you'd want to manage your different license versions as well, so I'm sure that could be extended at some point. So if you offer a professional version, an enterprise version, and so forth, and you want that to compile to run different files in there, that would be a applicable use for that as well.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. So as soon as I came across the need, just this one need to include some extra files for a debug build, I thought, well, if I have this need, then other people will eventually come across the same problem. So that that's how the feature came around.
Any other questions from online or in the room? Nobody else has one. I do have one. Why put the install private assembly into the bin directory? Is there a reason for that folder being selected, or you just trying to keep things clean, or what?
I'm struggling to remember. There was a reason. I think it simplified the manifest because I think .NET New, when it processes that assembly, I think it's looking to find the DLL in the folder you tell it and place it in the folder you tell it. And when that's all the bin folder, it just all works nicely together. You don't have to add an additional path component or anything like that. It just works. So also it does help keep it clean. You're right, inside the zip package, knowing that all the assemblies are going to be inside that bin folder. I like that. I prefer that.
That answers it. Okay.
Cool. So if there's no more questions.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat here. Is there a roadmap, and are there specific issues, features that you're looking for help on?
Okay, so there is no roadmap as such because this is not a huge project, and really I'm struggling to think of new features that are going to make people's lives easier. And so really I'm looking for inspiration at this point. So if you go to the GitHub project, there are a number of issues here. There's 7 issues outstanding at the moment, and most of them about their ideas for things. I wonder if this would help people, make people more productive if we did this. And I'm looking for feedback on these things. So I like to leave these issues there, let people stew over them, let myself think about them before I actually do any development on them. So the best place, if you're looking to contribute, or if you're looking to know what features are up and coming, then is to follow, go to the GitHub project, read some of these issues, and follow the project there, really. The nice thing about it is it's very easy for people to take these new features when they're developed, because all they have to do is they can come to their module project, they can click on Manage Nuget Packages, not Restore, Manage Nuget Packages, and when I release a new version of Dnn Packager, it just shows up under the Updates panel, and you click on it, and you click the projects you want to update, or all the projects, and you click Install, and all of a sudden you've got the latest version of Dnn Packager installed, and you can use the newest features. So if we add some fancy new features in the future, it's not the case of this isn't a project template, so it's not a case of once you've created the project with a certain project template, that's all you're getting. You're getting the features that were in that project template at the time your project was created. And if a new version of that project template is released with some new capability, well, that doesn't affect you. You can't update at that point. It's not easy for you to update. Whereas with a Nuget package, I can continually add new features, people can contribute, and people can just update very easily to the latest and just start using the new features right away. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, one of the first things that when I saw what your work was there, I was like, hey, where's the starter files for all, a typical module or anything? And at first that was kind of just what I was expecting coming from the template world. And one of the things that I've grown to appreciate is that you have on purpose kept that stuff out. and to keep things clean. And so there is some expectation that if you're using this, you do know what you want to do in the module. You're not looking for, hey, what is my folder structure for the web services framework, and how do I do that? Do I need a controller here? Do I need whatever? So you're kind of leaving the development up to the developer, and you're just giving them a great tool there to quickly kind of help with their workflow a little bit. So
exactly, yeah, that's exactly it. So this does not help in terms of adding project items or quickly giving you some code or anything like that. It's got a very niche purpose, and that is basically just to handle creating install packages, installing them, and letting you debug them. And what you put in those packages, in terms of code, and is completely up to you, and it doesn't help you in that sense. And that leads on to the next bit I was going to show you quickly.
Yeah, there was a quick question along those lines.
Okay.
I think you kind of answered it, but the question was, any thoughts regarding some more templating or scaffolding? And I think basically the philosophy behind this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Darrell, is that it's intentionally not scaffolding out any one particular type of module. So you may be wanting to build a SPA module in DNN8. You may be wanting to build a web forms-based module in DNN6. You may be wanting to do an MVC module in DNN8. All of those are very different in the way that you would structure that project. So intentionally, this does not put any of that scaffolding in there.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. And really, I've been looking towards .NET Nuke to produce Nuget packages that aid developers in developing these kinds of modules. So if I want to develop a I think it's called Web Forms MVP. I think that was the paradigm used module. Then I'm looking for a NuGet package from .NET Nuke that will add me the assemblies that I need and any files that I need, so I can just quickly create a new project, add that NuGet package, and get developing my Web Forms MVP based module or my SPA module or whatever module it is. Now, some of those NuGet packages are already available. And others, I've tended to create my own as I've needed them. So, yeah.
So, Darrell, in about 3 or 4 minutes, can you give a brief insight into what's next and what you're looking at?
3 or 4 minutes, sure. So at the moment, I am working on a new project system for Visual Studio. So I'll show that quickly here. So essentially, this will be a VSIX that you would download from the Visual Studio gallery. You install that, and what that does is it creates. In fact, I'll run this now. Let's run this. I can show you. Okay, so this is really all about the next level in terms of Dnn Packager handles building and deploying, but you don't really get all the nice buttons in Visual Studio. You don't have any project templates, item templates. There's no scaffolding there. So this really is for that. So you would install this VSIX, and then when you create a new project in Visual Studio, you have the option of creating
Drum roll, please.
a DNN extension project. So as you can see, I've created 183 of these previously. So let's create magic number 184. And straight away, what this has done is it's created a new project, and this project has its own has its own DNN proj file. So it's a completely new project system. It's not based on CS proj. It's not based on ASP.NET web application project. It's not based on a library project or anything like that. It's a completely new project system, project type. And that basically means that you can customize many things. So straight away, it's already brought in, my bad. So it's already brought in Dnn Packager, the Nuget package. So that's been added by default. So as soon as I build this new project, it's already producing the zip to install this extension. When I go to add a new item, I can pick from particular. So here I've got a .NET Nuke 7 section, and I've got a project. I've got an item template here for a module view. So let's add a module view to the project, and that's going to bring in .NET Nuke Core 7 Nuget package for me automatically, which it's doing now. So the nice thing about this is you don't need to worry about adding any dependencies this way, because it's going to scaffold everything for you. So that's added my view, and it's just, you know, standard kind of what you'd expect from, you know, standard module control, I guess.
So the idea here, we're getting close to running out of time here, but the idea here, I guess, is that item templates essentially would be created for this to scaffold out different types of projects. Is that the vision there?
Correct. Yeah, and the extensibility points in Visual Studio as well. So if I double click on the manifest file, I'm actually going to get. This is something I'm working on at the moment, so it doesn't look very nice at the moment. But this is essentially going to be a designer over the manifest file where you can essentially add components, add packages, but all through the UI. If you need to switch to the XML, you can. The other thing about this as well is it will catch, you know, the errors that I was making earlier with the typos and everything. It will catch that sort of error when you actually want to debug, rather than coming down here and running that command. You know, we don't need to do that anymore. We can just you know, select our DNN website that we want to debug in, and then run the DNN debugger. You know, every time we click play, we're going to get a standard Visual Studio experience. So really, this really is about taking DNN Packager to the next level in terms of having an actual project system designed for .NET Nuke extensions.
Well, Darrell, I think maybe I could echo from about every developer that's watching this. We're a little giddy at this point. So, you know, it's absolutely fantastic what you've been doing here. We're excited about it. Thank you for presenting to us. Let us know how we can help. I'm sure you would encourage everybody to communicate with you on GitHub, or how else can they get in touch with you if they would like to kind of help you with some of these things?
Yeah, sure. I'm on Twitter as well. I think my handle is Dazanate, because someone had Dazanator already. And so GitHub and Twitter are really the things that I check most often. Or you can go through David to reach me, because I think David's got me on Skype. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I know we want to give this guy a big round of applause. So that ends the online portion of the meeting here, and we've got a few little housekeeping things here in here, but thank you everybody for joining us online. We look forward to this every month, bringing good content to you and introducing you to things that you may have not seen before. So thank you so much. Please help us spread the word. And if you have any questions or any feedback for our user group, you can contact us through any of the social media channels that we're on, as well as our website, which is southernfrieddnn.com. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you online, guys. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Darrell.
My brother Darrell, smart brother Darrell.